Hello and welcome to my podcast. Today we'll be discussing a few questions of my choice from the play Antony and Cleopatra. I've chosen to answer the following due to my personal interest to the question and hopefully answer any questions if you have any. First question we'll discuss is how and why does Shakespeare convey Mark Antony's vacillation between restraint and excess within the play? Shakespeare visualizes Antony's indecisiveness throughout his choices within the play. Antony is often seen making brief decisions that appear to be him prioritizing the state over himself. We see this in him leaving Cleopatra for Rome, despite him clearly having strong affections for her, and in him marrying Octavia to strengthen alliances, despite obviously being in love with Cleopatra. However, Antony manages to quickly go back on these decisions, prioritizing his personal life over state, and ultimately it would be this vacillation which would be his downfall. For example, when Antony falls deeply in love with Cleopatra, pledging to stay by her side, he is later summoned to Rome to help fulfill his duties as a leader, hence leaving Cleopatra and showing his inability to pick between his state and his personal life. When Cleopatra finds out about Antony going to depart, she begs him to stay. "Sir, you and I have loved, but that's not it. You know well, something it is I would owe. My oblivion is very. Antony and I am all forgotten." Cleopatra bids Antony farewell, while also wishing that he does not forget and desert her. He clearly does not want her to leave, but he knows he must go, to serve the triumvirate in Rome. This choice shows his loyalty to the triumvirate and to Caesar, as he chose to leave Cleopatra. This brief moment of decisive action quickly proves to be for nothing, as Antony quickly thereafter neglects his duty and returns back to Egypt. Towards the end of Antony's stay in Rome, Antony agrees to marrying Octavia in order to help improve his alliance with Caesar. In this decision, he prioritizes his state over his own selfish needs. But when he returns back to Egypt, this quickly changes, and he continues his affair with Cleopatra, once more showing his vacillation between self and state. He tried to reassure Octavia that he would be a good husband, and despite the fact that he wants to maintain harmony between himself and Caesar, Antony decides that he must go back to Cleopatra. He is not an evil man, he does not purposely want to hurt Octavia, but he cannot calm his passions. Politics are one matter, but love is another, and through this we see his duplicity in the fact that he can pledge his loyalty to Octavia one minute, while planning all the while to return to his real love, Cleopatra, as soon as possible. Another example involves Antony giving a speech to the citizens after Julius Caesar's assassination. He does this by stating that Brutus was wrong and Julius did not deserve to die, while also calling Brutus an honourable man, using terms such as the noble Brutus to help persuade the citizens of his point. This shows that Antony is capable of strong and rational leadership. "I speak not to disprove what Brutus spoke, but here I am to speak what I do know. You all did love him once, not without cause. What cause withholds you then to mourn for him? O judgment, thou art fled to brutish beasts, and men have lost their reason." This quote from Antony's speech resembles his ability to use his words in order to persuade an unlikely crowd. It also shows that Antony has a clear motive when delivering his speech and gets the results he wants. Antony later goes on to planning where the battle against Caesar will take place, either on land or water, going against all of his advisors' recommendations to fight on land. Due to Egypt having one of the best on-foot armies, Antony takes advice from Cleopatra. This creates the idea that Cleopatra has more power over Antony, and has put him under her trance, as women having power during this time was an unusual thing, also seeing as how Antony took advice from Cleopatra over his own advisors, shows the clouded judgment that strikes Antony when Cleopatra is present. Anabarbus learns of Cleopatra's influence on Antony. "Your presence needs must puzzle Antony. Take from his heart, take from his brain, from what time you should not then be spared. He is already traduced for levity, and 'tis said in Rome that Photinus, a eunuch, and your maids manage this war." This is Anabarbus scolding Cleopatra as he believes that her presence on the battlefield will distract Antony. These two examples provide evidence that Antony vacillates between poor and excellent leadership when Cleopatra is introduced. Before she held a place in Antony's heart, he showed near flawless leadership, but when she is present in a time of making an important decision, he is lackluster and listens to her over her very well-trained advisors. Now to compare Shakespeare's characterization of Caesar and Mark Antony in regard to their prioritization of self and state. Shakespeare utilizes Caesar's and Antony's character development throughout the play to show contrast in their commitment to their state. Mark Antony in particular is portrayed by Shakespeare as especially fickle in his duty to state. Cleopatra uses a plot device to tempt Antony into showing priority to his self-indulgence over his responsibilities, while Caesar in comparison is shown as an honourable, loyal leader who puts Rome's needs over his own self-interests. Mark Antony is a man ruled by his passions, from lust to fear. Caesar, on the other hand, is a man who uses logic and clear reasoning in his leadership. Antony's commitments to his state involve marrying Octavia, travelling to Rome, joining the triumvirate, while his self-benefit involves abandoning Rome for Cleopatra, unfaithful to Fulvia, unfaithful to Octavia, betraying the triumvirate, abandoning battle against Caesar, taking advice from Cleopatra instead of advisors, and killing himself, leading his troops without a leader. From this we gain a better understanding of where Antony's prioritizations lie. Caesar's commitments to his state involve selling his sister to marry for an alliance, pursuing Mark Antony as an ally, fighting Antony and Cleopatra, offering redemption to Antony and Cleopatra, while only selfishly pursuing Antony by declaring war on Egypt. Shakespeare creates a comparison between the two characters, one being much more selfish than the other. This conveys how their different prioritization, whether it be to their state or themselves, can influence a character's further choices, as when Antony prioritizes Cleopatra over the triumvirate, it tends to become a recurring problem. We're able to explore this idea further with a quote from Caesar: "No, my most wronged sister, Cleopatra hath nodded him to her. He hath given his empire up to a whore, who now are levying to the kings o' the earth for war." Here Caesar explains to Octavia that Antony has returned to Cleopatra, and he tries to comfort her by promising to punish Antony for his inevitable consequences. This also supports the idea that Antony is once again influenced by Cleopatra, by her sexual traits luring him back to her over Octavia for his final betrayal that will set Caesar into a torrential rage, causing his pursuit of the Egyptian queen and her lover. This act of rage is the first sense of selfishness that Caesar portrays within the play, while at this point it has become a recurring theme for Antony. Thank you for listening to my podcast. I sure hope you learned a thing or two. See you next time.